Three, two, one, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast. That podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is our Bad Batch Monday. We know it's not catchy. This is episode 13, Infested. So
Yes.
we're headed to the end. There's only 3 episodes left after
We're in
this
the
one.
end game now.
Yes, we are. So, opinions about Infested.
Infested was like it felt a little bit like that a filler episode at first, just because as we know we're heading towards the end. But there were like some like a lot of like hidden subtleties and like it was like more nuanced character development than any of the like predecessing episodes, at least with the Ryloth arc. Like we went into like, how Sid things, what's the relationship between like the Bad Batch and like Sid, how Omega views everything. Nobody there's it's almost like that idea that there's Omega's still developing that idea of like what's moral, who's good, who's bad, is it all just relative, like, and that's what you kind of see at the end, like it's that it's more of that natural growth of like, well, am I gonna have compassion for somebody that I don't know, but hey, let's give them a chance, versus the old and jaded like, hey, we know they're a smuggler, why do you have to stick your head for them, like, and it happened all around the episode. Like at first it was like with Sid being abandoned and Omega being like, well, let's save Sid, and then it was with the Issa Duran's son.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I mean, Rosie liked them, like Ruby liked them. It was just an animal, so I'm gonna trust that instinct. Like there has to be some kind of good in there. So I like that they just develop more those characters. That I really enjoyed that. That's for sure.
You think is
I was very underwhelmed by the episode, to be completely honest. And it's not because it was quote unquote filler episode, because we know that Star Wars doesn't really do filler. It's all like build up to something else. But it's I compare it to like some of the things that happen sometimes with some of the sequel trilogy movies, where like you have to read some of the books or something to fill in the gaps of what's happening, and then the movie will make sense. I compare it to that in a way when things like today's last Friday's episode happens. It's like, yes, I understand that you're building towards something else and that things that are happening here are going to pay off eventually. But that doesn't mean that the episode doesn't need to stand on its own 2 legs. And it doesn't mean that because another episode is going to make this one stronger, that this one shouldn't be strong in of its own. So that's kind of why I felt that this episode wasn't working, because even though I know Roland is going to come back in some way, and the Durans and that crime syndicate's going to come back to pay something off or develop some other story thread, the episode in of itself didn't feel like it did much for me, except set up, oh, in the future this will do a payoff, because it was circular, right? We start with Sid being deposed, and we have to take care of Roland, and then the episode ends with Sid being back, and like all the characters are basically in their start, like right where they started. Like Sid's back in her office, the Bad Batch is back where they were originally, as like working for Sid. So in terms of like that character development, I didn't feel that there was much for anybody, frankly, except Roland somewhat. But I don't know. I mean, it was fun, the whole what's it called, the minecart experience thing, very Temple of Doom, like many other people have already established. I mean, that was fun. But in terms of like, especially with this being a part of the last couple of episodes before the season ends, I thought we were gonna punch the throttle and like, okay, let's go full speed ahead. And this episode was pumping the brakes, way more than I would have thought, because I compared to The Passenger and The Mandalorian, which a lot of people complained that episode was filler, but I thought it was not. And if you want to kind of refresh your mind on what we thought about that episode, go check out our Mandalorian season 2. reaction videos. But I thought that episode was kind of crucial in terms of Mando's development as a father in that season, especially how it's counterbalanced with Frog Lady and all the themes that go on with that episode, both visually and narratively. So just because an episode is kind of slow and internal doesn't mean that it can't project much more than it ultimately ended up doing. But that's just me.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with both of you. Especially after the end of last week's episode, when it's Crosshair being like, "Let the hunt begin," like, I'm finally going after him. I thought we were going to get that now. So you had these expectations about this confrontation with Crosshair, and especially considering there's only like this was the last of the last 4 episodes that we're going into. And yeah, so I was kind of disappointed that we got none of that, like not even a hint of coming, because you could have at least thrown in like a little bit from like Crosshair's perspective as he's trying to like find them, which is a missed opportunity, I think. The episode was still fun. I did love the whole, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom look, which also reminds me of like the Donkey Kong.
Oh, right,
it's
right,
like the cars jumping around and everything.
Yeah. So totally forgot about that one. Yep.
Yeah. So it was still like really fun, and it was like beautifully animated. Like this one especially, like all the dust motes and like all the flies and like it's visually stunning. All the angles, like when they're going down, rappelling, like Sid and Wrecker. It's beautifully engaging visually, and the music is still really good. But yeah, I was expecting more, a theme, and we've talked about like the antagonists are never all that great. This time we did get the Pikes, which were animated and sounded even creepier than they normally do, which I thought was a plus. Like they were like kind of fantastic and super threatening and amazing. And everything.
I love the Pikes, like how
they were great.
Weird, like Egyptian-ish, like aliens, and like I love that style. And just so creepy, and like I love how like everybody was like pointing their blasters at the Pikes and just chill, like
they don't even have to do anything.
It's like the badassery on them was like
it's like they know what's up. It's like even if you kill me, it's gonna come back on you tenfold.
Come to you.
I mean, even Roland, who grew up in a syndicate family, is like, dude, you guys have no chance if you piss off the Pikes. Like,
I mean, it's basically Qui-Gon's quote, right, from Phantom Menace. There's always a bigger fish, and you might think you're hot shit, but there's always gonna be someone up the food chain gonna come eat you, and that's the Pikes. But speaking of Pikes and someone further up the food chain, that leads to speculation then that the Twitterverse and the YouTubeverse is shattering with is that we might see the return of a certain character from the Clone Wars because of the Pikes, and that character obviously is Darth Maul. So what do we think about that little bit of speculation? Is it appropriate for Darth Maul to come for in the Bad Batch? Should he not be in this show? Should we save him for something else? What about Kira maybe coming in? What are the implications of the Pikes so far? Well, I think Kira's too young actually for this, but
I think Kira might be too young still for this. But I am of the mind that there's no such thing as too much Darth Maul. So wherever you can use it, and he's been used fantastically so far in all the animated series, so I would not be against him being used now or being used in some other future development. We know at this point that he is supposed to be in control of the crime syndicates, because I mean he told them to lay low right after Order 66, but seeing the Pikes show up might be that the underworld is starting to like moving again and trying to grab some territory and everything during the fallout of the end of the Republic, which was always Darth Maul's plan. So to capitalize on that. So, to see the Pikes here is a good indication that, he might be giving the orders now for everybody to start moving again. So him showing off or not, it's still good to know that, he's there in the background controlling things from the shadows, just like he learned to do from Papa Palpatine. So I know. So, but if he shows up, I think it'd be awesome. So
I'm with Nani. No such thing as too much Maul.
Yeah.
Just keep.
I think it might just be misdirection, though. I think they might because everyone's first thought is like, oh, it's like what movie? Whatever. There was like one thing where everyone thought it was gonna be Jabba the Hutt, and then it turned out to be some other gangster or something. I forgot what I'm thinking about, but I think this is type of thing that they're doing. They're showing the Pikes because everyone's like hot off Maul from
Yeah.
season 7, but it might be this bait and switch, and instead of being Maul, it's gonna be Paul Bettany from Solo, because we do know that his character, I forgot his name, sorry, but Vision's character in
Vision
Solo.
Boss.
They did.
Boss
thank
was
you.
Boss, yeah, Boss.
They did make a character for him in season 7, so the asset is already animated. So I don't think they were gonna like animate that asset for season 7 to just appear for a couple of seconds if they weren't thinking that okay, we're definitely gonna use this some other time and like invest the time now so that we can pay it off in the future. So I think it's a bait and switch. He thinks it's gonna be Maul, and it's gonna be Paul Bettany.
Yeah, we might have another Ralph Boner situation.
Yeah,
exactly. but less disappointing.
Yeah, less disappointing.
or we might get. I mean, we already got the Martez sisters, but they already dealt with the Pikes, so we might get. Like,
yeah, we could get the Martez sisters again. Yeah.
And
I'm okay with that.
I'm totally.
I love the Martez sisters. So
exactly. So.
I mean, I think narratively with like how Bad Batch is structured and knowing what the the kind of world that the Bad Batch live in, I think it makes more sense to have Paul Bettany come back than to have Darth Maul come back, at least for now, because it's kind of within the wheelhouse of what they're used to dealing with. It's more, guns to guns instead of like all of a sudden, oh shit, lightsaber. But
fourth user. Yeah, you're right.
And for most of the time, like Maul ruled from the shadows. Like nobody knew he was the actual leader. Like he used Boss as like a puppet to lead for him. So it would actually not make sense for him to show up so early on, but who knows? Still exciting. I have been thinking because obviously some of the episodes do feel like fillers and all these things, but I was talking to Josbando about it when we finished the episode, and what we talk about sometimes that there's like no overarching like bad guy, and even like the bad guy that we do have is like not that good and blah blah. But at the end of the day, this is right after Order 66. There's no organization. You don't know what's happening, and all the Bad Batch are doing is surviving. So it is okay for them to have missions of the week because that's what it is. It's a day-to-day. What do we have to do today to survive? What do we have to do today to keep Omega alive and fed and us going? So, I mean, would it be better if it had like a more overarching theme? Yes. Is it still fun as it is? Yes. So I'm not here to complain about it all that much, really, because I still enjoy it every Friday when they.
Yeah. I mean, it might all be a thing of like we, and when I say we, I mean the royal we, not like any of us specifically. We're spoiled with having like these payoffs of like things building towards something, and that each episode has to mean anything. I don't think that's necessarily what we should be looking for, right? In the episode, the payoff for the next episode. But at least for me, I'm okay with like an episode that takes a break from the quote unquote overarching narrative, and takes a break from that, but it needs to serve a purpose for the characters, and it needs to do something for them to learn something or discover something about something else. But there needs to be some sort of internal payoff if you're gonna detach yourself from the external conflict, right? And
I still think there was some development of their relationship with Sid. Because Sid was just like the person that was giving them jobs, and now they kind of like connected with this character a lot more, and I really like Sid, and I think this episode was like a really good highlight of what she does and who she is, and the fact that I love that Omega's the only one that was like, but we kind of have to help her, and then Sid's like, well, luckily somebody cares about me. I mean, and Sid has kind of been looking after Omega too from the beginning. She's kind of had her back, and she
goes and say like, I put Omega in this mess, I have to get her out, like, and then goes together, like, it does paint a different
picture,
like, more picture of like, who Sid is, and maybe that's what this episode was about, like humanizing the ones, the undesired, like the underbelly society, because even Roland, like, the whole that whole part of like, they took Ruby and like I'm like
Yeah.
just grabbing and like, yes, we're gonna kill them. Like, don't worry. Like, I love you.
Mm.
Like, it felt like that's how I would react to. That's very taken. Like, they took your dog, they took
Mhm.
your baby.
Yeah.
People are gonna pay. Like, it's more. I hate the word humanizing because obviously it's such like an egocentric thing, but more
Yeah.
people,
And
people,
they're aliens too.
yes,
So
exactly. So I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
say.
We
So
need to make up a
first-
word for it. Yeah.
Yes, we have to
Yeah.
look for a word for this, but but that sentiment of like who nobody really is good and nobody's really bad. We just do
Yeah.
actions
Mhm.
that either have good consequences or bad consequences.
Like Palpy said, right? Good is a point of view, Anakin.
From a certain point
Yeah.
of view, everything.
Oh, shit, Obi-Wan.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that's what's like kind of what Gus was saying. Like maybe we don't need to have like an amazing all of like mind blown episode. Like we can just have like more self paced episode every once in a while. I mean, we the last two episodes we kind of like drifted away from the Bad Batch. So if we had like we kind of have like short term memory collectively again the royal we, but
Yeah.
so like getting back on track of like okay, so this is what the Bad Batch is before
Yeah.
the last three
Mhm.
episodes, kind of like giving it like the prequel of what's about to come.
Hmm.
I think that's what where the payoff is at, and that Omega's every single day just establishing. At this moment, like Omega might just be the next leader of the Bad Batch.
Hmm.
None of them have like even Hunter. They've lost that leader ability. Like in this episode, it was Sid who was
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
leader.
Yeah.
And by the end it was Omega. So it's almost like that transition. Like they're still soldiers. They still follow orders. Just the question
Yeah.
is who gives the order. And it seems like Omega might be the one giving the orders from now on.
Well, because if you really pay attention, the one that's actually building relationships with these other characters is Omega.
It's Omega. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means
So
we need to
she
get
is-
her a little set of armor.
Yeah, I know. I would love her in the little set of armor. I would die. But yeah, you can see that she is building this like kind of web of interconnecting a lot of the things that are happening around her, and she's making these connections. So I think eventually when the Bad Batch decides what their purpose is going to become, it's going to be because of Omega. And they're going to be able to execute it because of these connections that
Mhm.
Omega has made with the Martez sisters and, Hera and her family and Rex. And I mean, because so many things. And
So we're gonna
the Durants, like the Durants are
Yeah.
on.
And the Durans now, because
Yeah.
because they bonded over that too. I mean, she always gives everybody the benefit of the doubt to show their better selves. And you have to applaud her for that. Like Omega's amazing. So
You're saying that kind of made me think all of a sudden of Mandalorian, where she's like, yeah, we make all these friends along the way, and all of a sudden, the last episode, everyone's gonna come together. So Rex is coming, the Martez are coming. They're gonna make a superhero team to rescue something from the final episode. The team up, it's gonna happen.
The Avengers
Bad Batch assemble.
Bad Batch, yeah. On your
Not
left.
be against that. I would not be against that. So I guess we have to wait and see. There's only 3 episodes left. I really do hope that now they kind of like punch it, but we have to wait and see. I mean, the creators have a vision. We can't just like impose our vision on the creators. So I mean, we can play all that we want, but at the end of the day, we're not creators.
We all know also like Filoni hears to this, so
he does. He texts us after every episode like, "Good job, guys. You're picking up exactly what I wanted you guys to pick up, or good points. I'm gonna incorporate that in the next one." He absolutely does. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He wears our merch too. He just like does it at Skywalker Ranch. He doesn't wear it in public. Doesn't want to make the other podcast feel jealous or anything. He's a good guy. He's a good guy all around.
Great.
Very supportive, but also very mindful.
As all things should be.
Well, anyway, I think we covered the episode pretty well. I don't know if you guys have anything else to say.
I mean, one of the other things I wanted to mention, and I don't know if it was an intentional Easter egg, but the one thing I did pick up when they were going through the chasm or wherever they were, is like I got some real intense Lord of the Rings vibes when Wrecker drops the flashlight or whatever the fuck he dropped, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean to," whatever he says, and I'm like, "That's Pippin, and you're in the mines of Moria."
And Sid was Gandalf. Was like,
yeah,
are you stupid,
idiot?
Like,
yeah,
you do not.
How many times did I tell you not to make noise? You ass. Yeah.
Yep. It was
so
totally
I mean, it was evocative about all those things. Like a lot of the episodes look also like very alien, especially like the Bracco ones, like on the ship in the dark. Like I think, like I was saying before, like visually they keep stunning me every time. It's like, wow, this is beautiful. So, you know,
very much
props to the animation and you know the themes that they bring into like the actual look of it. Even if the action might not be on par with what everybody wants, like just the look of it every single time is just like spot on.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the next 3 episodes. If we're gonna get more Bad Batch like other seasons, who knows? So
I hope at least one more season. I don't think Bad Batch is gonna be 4, like 6 seasons long.
Yeah.
But I think at 2 or 3 seasons seems appropriate. But I mean, who knows? We'll see. A Bad Batch video game, that would be awesome though. Right?
It would.
So it'll be like like one of those old school Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games for the NES, where you could play like as any of the Ninja Turtles, and each one has and you could just play to each one.
Blow everything up.
And then you do a co-op mode with all your buddies, and all of you are the Bad Batch. Ooh, shit, come on, Lucasfilm, come on, listen, do it. Money, there's money here.
I love that. That would be so fun.
That would be really cool.
Like, that would be amazing.
I mean, they already did. What was it? Squadron. What was it called? The game where you can choose like it was like from the I think it was like the 64, Nintendo 64 or GameCube that you could.
Well, there was a Clone Commando one.
Commando, there you go. Yes.
I never played that one because I did not have that console which it came out for, but I know it.
And that was a pretty fun game. You could pick there were like 4 different. It was almost like the Bad Batch. You can pick your character and you had different commands, and like there was a flamethrower. Somebody had like the shotgun.
Well, yeah, because the Bad Batch works like an RPG.
Yeah.
Because you have the different job classes basically with them, so it works.
And we've already said how some of the episodes play like video games, so it's you got half the work done, guys. Just publish it and just publish it and give us a cut of the revenue because this was our idea.
Coming
and
next
we
Christmas,
will definitely play it.
Next holiday.
Yes, just give us a paltry 5%, and we're fine.
So now I think we're done.
Yeah.
Unless everybody. Well, anyway, we mentioned an awesome character today, so stay tuned because for a regularly episode, we're going to be talking about maybe one character that we talked about today. So stay tuned. We are Triad of the Force. You can find us anywhere that podcast can be found: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We have merch. We're all over the place. So just, give us a like, subscribe, ring that bell, leave some comments, and love you guys. May the Force be with you.